By many accounts, the fallout from the pandemic has been devastating for young people. In addition to learning loss from the closing of schools, restrictions on in person gatherings have taken a toll on youth development programs. And some of these are critical as safe havens and places where teens can discover new possibilities. One of the prime examples is the Dorchester Youth Collaborative, which recently closed. To tell us about that decision is the agency's founder and longtime director, Emmett Folgert. Thank you very much for being with us, Emmett, even on this kind of a sad occasion. You have quite a history in Dorchester. I said maybe 40. Are we talking about maybe 50 years in Dorchester?
I tried to stop counting at 30, but yeah, it's 50.
Oh, well, a belated congratulations. But I want to ask you about this because this isn't like you had one very bad day and you decided to shut off the lights.
No.
After the pandemic started, you had a lot of attempts to keep things going. What was that like, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, we did. Everybody closed, of course, at first for about 7 weeks in the spring, and then we immediately tried some things. We went out and bought a lot of video cards. So we have these $25 video cards for PlayStation and made deals with young people. If they went to school online, we would, and did some good work, we would reward them with these incentives. And then we got in our cars and rode to their homes, keeping them at a car length apart and with masks, but we still wanted to show them that we're still here. We didn't disappear. And they would come out of their houses, sadly, many of them in their pajamas, even, in the middle of the day. They hadn't even dressed. And many of them we had to wake up because they were on sleep shift. They had stayed up all night playing video games with their friends and doing Snapchat. And just driving around the streets during that time, it was really like the aftermath of an apocalypse, especially for children. Everything that you forget all the things kids do until they're all gone. The gyms, the parks, they tied up the nets on basketball hoops, for example. It was very eerie and scary, extremely scary. So we did that, and then we did some basketball training during the summer. It wasn't easy. It's not easy to keep teenagers distant. It's just not the way they're wired or built. They like to wrestle. They like to play around. So what we did is we took our youngest kids, like the 7 to 12-year-olds. They still do what you tell them, basically. You say, go sit by the cone, and they go sit by the cone. And then we took the teenagers, because we wanted to work with them, and we hired a ton of them. So it was like one teenager for every 2 little kids. We had like 30 little kids. And because we were paying them or buying them things that they needed, they also would do what we tell them. Say, hey, get over there, you're working for us. Then they would do that and could be safe. They would follow our instructions. So that was an adjustment we made to be able to work with them. And all that worked pretty good. We were able to, when the numbers went extremely low, we were able to get 7, 8 young people in the center that usually would have 40, 30. But the second wave knocked us out really badly. We couldn't open up the center. We couldn't play indoor sports. And it got to be difficult in terms of writing reports, which is something I have to do about what we're doing with the funding that people are giving us, and writing proposals about what we will do in the future when we don't know when we can do what in the future. So we shut down. Our board also voted to shut down permanently, and and that was their choice. But we were shut down anyway. So it'll be extremely difficult, but I do want to let people know our staff is stuck together and is meeting. And when the cases go way down, I don't know when it would be. It might be September. Who knows? No one knows. We will make an effort to set up services again. Okay, we will do that. And hopefully we'll come on this show and others and ask for support to do that when we can. So I'm an old fighter, you know that.
Right. Yeah, I
and,
certainly do.
and the staff is better than me, trust me.
Yeah.
So we're not giving up.
I know each program has its own focus, but if you had to generalize about how the pandemic has affected youth development programs across the board, how bad is it, you think?
Oh, it's miserable. I'm thinking, I always like to do a day in the life. So let's think today. Okay, what's going to happen today? I've got a young man, 14 years old. Uh, he's had a hard time in his life. He's had a lot of challenges. He was on his own a lot and had a good year just before the pandemic. Really put it together. Was getting good grades, made the basketball team, had a year where he was the most valuable, a very valuable player, I would say, in a baseball league, right? And they're halfway through the basketball season, and the rug gets pulled out from under this kid, And he wasn't going on the Zoom classes. I'm getting calls from the teachers, we're worried. We're worried about him emotionally. We're worried about him academically. And it's extremely difficult. So what are we doing today? Today, we're going to meet at Dick's Sporting Goods. Go out there. His grandmother will drive him. I'm 70 years old. I'm not putting anybody in my car. And I've only got one vaccine. I have to get the second vaccine. But we'll meet out there and we'll see what the family can come up with, and what they can't come up with, we'll come up with, and make sure he gets all the best baseball equipment. That's his dream. His dream is to be a professional baseball player. And we're going to encourage that dream. And of course, we're also checking to see that he is going to school remotely right now. We're just trying to keep hope alive, as they say,
Right.
for these kids. And we all know that kids have to eat and need physical nourishment, but we all need emotional nourishment too. These kids emotionally are starving, some of them starving to death. I don't want to put a happy face on what's going on. It's very, very difficult.
Well, even in cases where the digital divide itself and even food are not the issues, I get the sense that once a young person falls behind a little bit, it just builds and builds and builds. Am I wrong, or is that a pattern
No,
that you have?
you're right, and I'm hearing this from them. They're like, Emmett, it's too late. I'm too far behind. And I say, okay, well, we have tutors. What can you do? What can you do today? What are 10 things that you could do? Okay, now let's cross out most of them. Let's get it. Can you do 3 things? And then we'll try again tomorrow. You can't give up on them even when they've given up on themselves. It's very, very important.
Now, that can be said about a lot of young people who have no official history of any kind of trouble, but you also work with people who do have histories like that. What do you see for them?
We do. For example, some of our key people we have young folks from like 7th to 9th grade who teachers have told us need and can benefit from a lot of attention. So for example, those kids, an after-school program isn't enough. We get them all in a Boys and Girls Club. Absolutely, get them all in after-school programs. But then those kids they used to be collected, at the youth center, but now they need to be contacted in FaceTime groups, and contacted every day. They need more attention. They also need veteran staff that can check on them, how they're doing at school, how they're doing at home, and try to resolve problems before they get too far. When programs reopen, and I want us all to think about that now, when schools reopen, when programs reopen, it's not going to be the same. I started as a clinician. That's originally what I started, and I still do that. We've got to be ready for them when they come in. They're going to be different. They've gone through an unusual experience, and it's not going to be the way it used to be. They haven't been socializing. They haven't been learning how to play with each other, how to interact with each other or with adults. Many of them are going to be nodding off in class and at the youth center because they're on sleep shift. They're staying up all night playing video games. And why wouldn't they in some ways? Because there's nothing for them during the day. Their parents don't want them to go out. It's painful for them, actually, to be sitting around. They'd rather sleep and join a virtual world at night. But I think peer pressure will rule the day. I think teens will come to school, and then many of them immediately nod out on their desks. And we've got to be ready for that. All of us are going to have to find like 100 ways to correct children in the nicest possible voice. We should bring in stand-up comedians to teach us 1,000 jokes just to keep them awake for a while till they get back on, into a normal sleep rhythm. Their circadian rhythms. This is going to happen. It's not going to be the same.
One of the unusual things about DYC is the amount of work you did with either films or at least some kind of drama. And a lot of people might say, well, I don't see a career path in there for many kids,
no.
But what's the value of that?
Oh my God. If you've ever been on a film set or a TV set or an advertising set, one of the things you'll find out is that it's like an army in a way. It's not what you think it is. You have these departments. There's the camera department, there's the sound department, and there's the food department. They call it craft services. And each of them has a leader. There's the key person there. And then they have people under them, and they're connected by headsets. And it's amazingly coordinated, and it has to be. And the actors as well, the discipline that you have to say the same thing 30 times while they're taking while cameras are taking different angles on you. It's hard work. If you can do television and TV production, you can do anything. It's transferable. Those job skills are transferable. Tremendous discipline.
I know in our shorthand, we refer to the DYC and some other programs in Boston as well as a safe haven. Teens can maybe tune out some of those divides, whether it's by race or gang territory. But the other thing going on there that I think you hinted at is that kids have a dream that becomes at least a little more real. What does that do in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the 8th grade, I was certain I was going to be a Boston Celtic. There was just no doubt in my mind. And thank God there were a couple of teachers that said, yes, you are. And you have to go to school to play on the team, and you have to, work really hard and stay in shape and not do bad things. And it probably wasn't until my junior year that I figured out my hands are too small to ever be on a professional basketball team. I can't palm the basketball. But those years were important. Those dreams were important. And everybody has them and can have several of them. And it's our job to help teenagers use those dreams and use that hope for the future to get them through the day. School is the number one place where this occurs. It's the most fertile ground for where dreams are born. And they don't have that right in school, in-person school. There are brilliant teachers out there that are standing on their heads, literally, and doing cartwheels to keep these kids' attention and to nourish this. But it's much easier when it's in person in school.
Well, thinking of getting through the day now, over the years, you have all these young people you've been helping. DYC closes. I'm sure there are still some people out there. They still need help. So what do you do? I mean, today or next week?
Well, almost immediately I'm going to get an agency that it's still in service to put me on their insurance. I don't care if they pay me $1. You have to have insurance to do what I do. And supervision, you have to have that no matter what. Even if you're the executive director like I was, you still have to have someone that you share the responsibility with of what you're doing, when you're trying to help people who are in stress. I'll have that wrapped up. Certainly by next week. so that I can continue some of that work. Okay. You know, that's just me personally. And like I say, the staff is sticking together, and we're working hard to plan for the day when it's going to be okay to do, it's going to be safe to do the kind of activities we did. And I'm very confident that we'll find a way to do that. And I'm confident that your viewers, who I've known for how many decades? I've been coming on this show for decades. We're going to be asking for support. And I know that your viewers and the public will support us. It's going to happen. So we're not giving up either.
A lot of people are going to be needing that help as well. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us, and best of luck in the future, because people are going to need that.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everybody in advance out there. I'll be talking to you later.
Right. That would Emmett Folgert from the Dorchester Youth Collaborative. We'll have more news in just a moment.